without further ado, I'd just like to introduce our first speaker, who really does need no introduction, but I'm going to say it anyway. So we have Monika Buscher. We all know who she is, but I'm going to say it again. So she is a professor in sociology at the Department of Lancaster University and was CeMoRe director from 2015 to 2020. Fantastic work there. Her innovation in mobile methods has had a major impact and development on the field. I think that really goes without saying. And certainly during her time at Lancaster, she's brought grants in with a mobilities focus worth millions of pounds. So great credit to her. She's especially well known for her work on decarbonisation, sustainable futures, disaster mobilities, and the ethical aspects of IT. And her field-defining book publications, which I'm sure many of us have all read, of course, Mobile Methods 2010 and the Handbook of Research Methods and Applications for Mobilities, published in 2020. And I was grateful to be able to give a contribution to that myself. So without further ado, would you please welcome Monika for her latest work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharon. That's what a wonderful start. And we've got a bonanza of CeMoRe today, isn't that wonderful? So I'm just gonna get my presentation up and then get us started. And I like the beginnings theme. That's where I've gone with my presentation. So my mobilities research began with Sociology Beyond Societies, John Urey's book. And in the book, he lays out how mobilizing social science could help us respond to the challenges of the 21st century. 20 years on, we have to be faster and we have to be more ambitious than John. That's saying quite something. In future geological layers, we'll find trillions of cars, archaeologists will find them, and ecological destruction. Will they also find the end of the Anthropocene? And what will they call that age? And what can we do to shape the beginnings of the end of the Anthropocene? Human activities are shaping, they're changing Earth systems. So the blue curves that you see on the right, where do we go from that tip of the curve? We need to bend those blue curves down and try to keep these ones on the left up, or at least level. Maybe we can't do that. But then whose population, whose GDP, whose transport systems is to crash or collapse or coast? The OECD countries, which are in the middle, you see a breakdown there, have the smallest population, but the greatest riches. So for climate justice, their descent should be the steepest. How can we save humanity as an ethical value in this existential fight? That's a global and local question. And I'd like to give you a glimpse of research that I'm doing. This is Cumbria, just up the road. And here, red means high carbon emissions and blue means low carbon emissions. There are huge inequalities. The well-off here are enjoying a lifestyle in the National Lake District National Park. They fly, they commute to work in Lancaster, in Manchester, Leeds. People living in the more deprived communities on the coast, Maryport, Whitehaven, they work in hospitality in the Lake District, and their overall emissions are much lower. But both these groups depend on cars. In 2015, Storm Desmond caused £1.6 billion worth of damage. Bridges collapsed, isolating the most deprived and remote communities for months. And now their roads are melting in the heat. Cumbria is one of more than 2,000 jurisdictions worldwide who declared a climate emergency in 2019. All of them need a plan to decarbonize transport in their area. And in the Decarbonate project, Nicola and I led a societal readiness theme, and we are developing a societal readiness assessment methodology. That's one mobile method for a transition. I also work with Carlos Lopez Galvez and colleagues in Colombia and Cuba. We have developed another mobile method, Populabs, and the aim here is to support communities in informal or popular settlements in claiming their right to mobility and immobility or non-displacement. And I'll give you a glimpse of what we've done with societal readiness assessment. In Cumbria, the local authorities made a plan to be net zero by 2037. They commissioned a carbon budget to know where they're going. And this snapshot gives you a sense of the complexities. Cumbria has a population of about 500,000 people, and they produce about 1.5 million tons of CO2 in a year from traveling alone. But that's more than doubled by the 47 million tourists who visit every year. To achieve zero carbon by 2037, this has to happen. In the meetings I go to, that's considered impossible. It requires a transformation of a whole mobility system. If you think back to the people living there, it means making all cars electric pretty much and reducing car travel by 25%. That could actually be really great. I ran video workshops at Cumbria Youth Climate Assemblies, and many of the young people resent that their parents have to drive them everywhere. They want climate action and public transport. It would be life-changing for them, and I'll play you a really short clip of how much mobility means to them. It's a really simple but very powerful expression of CeMoRe's will to connection. To grow as human beings, people need mobility. And there is a jungle of solutions out there. Electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, hydrogen buses, e-scooters. Zero Carbon Cumbria also has hundreds of ideas and projects. And they are being targeted. Worldwide, $34 trillion are being spent on a green transition. Everyone wants a share of that pie. The UK government wants UK companies to make and sell solutions. Fossil fuel companies, car manufacturers want to be part of the solution, and they are really powerful. Transition takes time, says Sultan Al Jaber, who is chief executive of UAE's Abu Dhabi National Oil Company and also president of the upcoming COP28. Our societal readiness assessment asks who gains what from decarbonizing transport and who loses. And this is where mobilities research gives really unique analytical leverage. Multi-scalar analysis of mobilities, immobilities, moorings of people, objects, information, money, and more reveals complex relational interdependencies and intersectionalities. CO2 molecules in the atmosphere cause wildfires in British Columbia that color Manhattan skies, choking especially the old, the young, ethnic minorities in already polluted places. Climate change intensifies the circulation of neoliberal and supremacist ideologies and social media misinformation. It is linked to human and animal migrations, the deaths of refugees in the seas around us, and a 75% decline in insects. As John already predicted, the concept of society is being deployed by powerful national and corporate forces, from oil companies to Trump and UK PLC, and even the IPCC, the International Panel for Climate Change, to control networks and flows of information, people, money. Some do it for power, some do it for greed. The IPCC does it in the name of science. And in the sentence that follows that quote from John's work, he calls for new rules of sociological method, and that really has always resonated with me. I do action research. Mobile methods to me means enabling resistance, imagination, alternative ideologies, better, more sustainable ways to live our will to connection. In doing research on place-based decarbonization of transport and climate justice, I asked myself, what allows nationalists, corporations, scientists to appropriate the concept of society in ways that gives them so much power, so little accountability, so little responsibility? And it's things like this. NASA developed technology readiness levels in the 1970s. They have become a worldwide standard to assess when innovations are ready for society to adopt. At level 1, you have a concept, and at level 9, you have a system that has flight proven through actual missions. And that standard absolutely dominates investment of those $34 trillion in zero carbon transition. Electric vehicles, e-scooters, smart technologies for 15-minute cities are all TRL 9. The Department for Transport, research councils like the EPSRC measure success in TRL. So together with Nicola and other colleagues, I've developed a societal readiness assessment methodology and societal readiness levels. This is a screenshot of a dashboard we're developing with funding from the UK Department for Transport. You just can't see the logo there. It invites anyone with an interest in sustainable transport projects to conduct a societal readiness assessment. There are 4 sets of questions. The first about carbon reduction. How much carbon does this actually save? Social justice, who benefits, who loses? Social good, what wider harms and benefits are there? For example, does electrifying cars alleviate congestion? Does smart transport fuel surveillance capitalism? And the last set of questions is about fit for a decarbonized future. How ambitious is the vision? Is it part of a mobility system transformation, or is it just tinkering around the edges? Societal readiness assessment is, in some ways, a Trojan horse, because it looks like it complements technology readiness assessment. The Department for Transport, big master planning and engineering companies like Stantec or third sector groups like the national park authorities love the idea because, as the IPCC says, 40 to 70% of the change has to come from society, and it isn't happening. So they need help. They're desperate. But societal readiness assessment is actually a seed ball for a transformation of the ontopolitics of the Anthropocene. It forces engagement with people and places. It brings agonistic democracy and dissent into the engine room of investment in sustainable transition. I want CeMoRe to be a force that contributes to bringing about the end of the Anthropocene. Buen vivir is Spanish for living in a good way, a life where humans are stewards of the earth and its resources, and individual rights are subjugated to those of communities and nature. And to do that, I think we need to be more innovative in temporal, material, and political ways, enabling future generations' will to connection, taking care of interdependent immobilities. And mobility and climate justice are not just about fairer distribution or making injustices invisible. It's about infrastructuring different ways of doing politics. And I would love to hear what you think. So I'm just going to hand over to the next speaker, I guess. Yeah.